In the bustling kitchen of an elite charity gala, elderly cook Benjamin quietly plated dishes, hands trembling slightly. Round him, young servers snickered openly, mocking his slow pace and simple appearance. Their laughter pierced the respectful hum, turning heads, but leaving Benjamin stoically silent. As the crowd's attention drifted back, a guest approached to warmly greet him, noticing something glint beneath his worn jacket. Reaching carefully, the guest revealed a Medal of Valor, pinned discreetly inside Benjamin's coat, immediately silencing the laughter and transforming ridicule into stunned respect. The room fell quiet, realizing they'd mocked an unassuming hero among them. Benjamin Hart had always preferred the comfort of anonymity. At 72, he moved quietly through life, gentle, modest, and unnoticed. With thinning silver hair, soft wrinkles etched across his weathered face, and eyes reflecting years of quiet resilience, Benjamin embodied quiet dignity. Nowhere was this humble spirit more evident than in the charity kitchen where he served as a cook, painstakingly preparing dishes at prestigious fundraising galas for veterans and their families. Tonight, the venue was a grand historic hall, lavishly decorated with flowing silk banners, polished oak tables, and flickering candlelight. Guests, wealthy patrons, decorated military personnel, and respected community figures streamed through the entrance, their laughter and conversation filling the luxurious ballroom. Yet Benjamin remained hidden away in the kitchen quietly, orchestrating a delicate dance of flavors, aromas, and carefully plated dishes. Benjamin wasn't always a cook. Many years ago, during his youth, he served courageously in the military, a member of an elite special forces team. Benjamin had seen both humanity's darkest cruelty and its brightest courage. Yet after returning home, burdened by memories and the invisible wounds of service, he chose obscurity, finding solace and meaning in the humble role of feeding others. Cooking became his quiet therapy, a way to heal the hidden scars nobody could see. His younger colleagues knew nothing of his past, nor did they care. They viewed Benjamin merely as an aging cook whose careful movements slowed their hectic pace. Among them was Jason, the ambitious head server, whose youthful arrogance overshadowed respect or empathy. Jason openly mocked Benjamin, viewing his quiet humility as weakness. Alongside him was Olivia, a talented young sous chef whose patience had gradually worn thin, influenced by the dismissive attitudes around her. Their disdainful whispers frequently drifted toward Benjamin's ears, unacknowledged yet deeply felt. Tonight, as Benjamin meticulously garnished plates, ensuring every meal carried warmth and care, Jason passed through, laughing openly. "Careful, old man. At this rate, the guests might starve before you finish." Nearby servers joined the chorus, laughter echoing painfully against Benjamin's quiet reserve. Olivia glanced away uneasily, discomfort flashing briefly in her eyes, but remaining unspoken. Benjamin continued silently, absorbing the ridicule as he always had, keeping his emotions deeply guarded. Yet beneath the surface, memories flickered. He recalled vividly a battlefield far from home, comrades lost, missions completed silently in the darkness, courage displayed without expectation of applause. He'd learned long ago that true strength was quiet and humble, forged in the crucible of sacrifice and selfless duty. Unknown to the kitchen staff, tonight's gala held special meaning. Among the honored guests was Senator Evelyn Carter, whose late husband once served alongside Benjamin in the most perilous operations. It had been decades since their paths last crossed, and Benjamin had intentionally avoided any spotlight since leaving the service. Yet tonight, the senator had specifically requested Benjamin's presence, though he had politely declined a seat at her table, choosing instead the familiar anonymity of his kitchen duties. Benjamin's jacket concealed a small yet profoundly significant emblem, his Medal of Valor, earned years ago on a mission where he had risked everything to save others. Despite its prestige, Benjamin had never worn the medal openly. He felt deeply uncomfortable with public recognition, believing firmly that true heroes never sought applause or accolades. Instead, he pinned it discreetly inside his jacket, a quiet reminder of values he embodied daily: humility, dignity, and quiet courage. As plates moved from the kitchen to guests, Benjamin overheard laughter drifting from the dining room, sharp, reminders of the cruel humor that surrounded him, yet he focused his energy fully on his work, determined that each dish represented not only culinary excellence, but quiet gratitude for those who had served and sacrificed. Outside in the hall, Senator Carter quietly inquired about Benjamin's whereabouts. Her eyes scanning expectantly, Jason overheard, visibly puzzled. "Benjamin, our cook. Why would you wish to see him, Senator?" She smiled warmly, her voice gentle yet firm. "Benjamin Hart is far more than just your cook. He is one of the bravest individuals I've ever known, though his quiet dignity has likely hidden that from all of you." Jason's dismissive laughter faded abruptly, uncertainty flickering across his previously confident expression. Nearby, guests paused, intrigued by the senator's enigmatic comment. Quiet whispers rippled outward. Curiosity sparked among the assembled patrons. Senator Carter calmly excused herself from the table, her footsteps quietly determined as she made her way toward the kitchen. Inside, Benjamin remained oblivious, carefully placing delicate garnishes onto dessert plates. The kitchen had momentarily emptied, servers called to other duties, leaving Benjamin in rare solitude. Yet in that silence, echoes of laughter still lingered painfully, prompting quiet introspection. For a brief moment, Benjamin considered whether his decision to remain unseen had unintentionally allowed disrespect to flourish. Perhaps, he wondered silently, his humility had become invisibility, obscuring not only his past, but the dignity of every soldier who silently carried unseen scars. Before Benjamin's introspection deepened further, footsteps approached gently from behind, startling him slightly. Turning slowly, he saw Senator Carter's warm, compassionate smile. "Benjamin Hart," she said softly, eyes bright with emotion. "I've been looking for you." Benjamin's breath caught slightly, surprised by her quiet sincerity. His quiet anonymity was being gently but firmly challenged, prompting a profound internal conflict. Should he remain hidden, preserving comfort in obscurity, or allow recognition not for his sake, but for the dignity and honor of those he represented? He straightened respectfully, facing Senator Carter with quiet dignity. "Senator, how can I help?" She paused gently, gaze warm yet knowing. "Benjamin, perhaps it's time everyone understood exactly who's been quietly serving their meals all these years." Benjamin's pulse quickened slightly as Senator Carter's gentle yet firm gaze settled upon him, her request hanging quietly in the air. He'd spent decades carefully shielding his past, carefully constructing a life of quiet anonymity. Now, standing before him was a decision, a delicate choice between maintaining his comfortable obscurity or stepping forward to confront the misunderstandings and quiet indignities he'd silently endured for years. From the corner of his eye, Benjamin saw young Jason returning to the kitchen doorway, accompanied by Olivia and several servers. Their faces were marked by confusion, curiosity, and lingering skepticism. He could sense their eyes judging, weighing his reaction carefully. Uncertain how to interpret the senator's respectful attention toward him, Senator Carter, sensing Benjamin's hesitation, stepped closer, voice compassionate yet unwavering. "Benjamin, I understand your reluctance, but this isn't only about you, it's about honoring the values you've quietly lived by. It's about fairness, dignity, and genuine respect. These young people deserve to know." Benjamin sighed softly, memories rushing back painfully. "Senator, respect should come naturally, not because of past deeds or hidden medals. I've always believed real dignity stands quietly, unnoticed yet unwavering." Jason's voice cut sharply through Benjamin's quiet reflections, his skepticism thinly veiled. "With all respect, Senator Carter, we've worked with Benjamin for years. If he truly had some noble past, wouldn't we have known by now?" The question stung more deeply than Benjamin anticipated. Jason's implication was clear. His colleagues saw him only as a quiet, aging cook. Perhaps, Benjamin realized sadly, by choosing quiet humility, he'd unintentionally allowed disrespect and dismissiveness to flourish unchecked. His silence, born from modesty and discomfort with attention, had gradually become complicity in his own invisibility. Senator Carter's eyes narrowed thoughtfully, recognizing Jason's subtle challenge. "Young man, true heroes rarely seek recognition. Often, The most courageous among us are precisely those who never speak about their sacrifices. Benjamin's silence isn't weakness, it's humility. Jason shifted uneasily under her gentle reprimand, his confident mask fracturing slightly, yet pride kept him defiant, unwilling to reconsider his harsh judgments. Olivia, however, glanced uncertainly at Benjamin, recognizing something deeper unfolding, perhaps an injustice she'd willingly ignored for too long. The senator turned back toward Benjamin, her tone gently insistent. "Benjamin, I remember vividly when your bravery saved my husband's life, when you risked everything for your comrades. How many others here tonight would willingly shoulder such responsibility? It's time your story is known, not for your sake alone, but to remind everyone here what dignity and selflessness truly mean." Benjamin's eyes glistened faintly with restrained emotion, torn between reluctance and responsibility. He had chosen anonymity not merely from discomfort with praise, but to protect himself from memories haunting him quietly each day, revealing his past required confronting those painful shadows, something he'd spent decades carefully avoiding. Yet he recognized clearly now that silence had allowed disrespect and injustice to flourish, undermining the values he quietly cherished. Gathering quiet courage, Benjamin finally spoke softly, clearly, addressing Jason and the others directly. "Perhaps Senator Carter is right. I've stayed silent for years, believing humility meant invisibility. But perhaps, in my silence, I've allowed misunderstanding and disrespect to thrive. Jason, you questioned why you didn't know my past. The truth is, you never truly asked. None of you did." Jason visibly recoiled, Benjamin's quiet honesty slicing sharply through his arrogance. Olivia's expression softened with remorse, shame creeping into her eyes. Benjamin continued gently, yet firmly. "Respect should not depend on rank, age, or medals. It should come naturally from recognizing every person's quiet worth and dignity. Yet by remaining hidden, perhaps I failed to uphold these values fully myself." The room fell silent, Benjamin's quiet reflection resonating deeply. Senator Carter watched thoughtfully, respecting his emotional journey while acknowledging the profound lesson unfolding. Finally, she spoke gently, encouraging yet respectful. "Benjamin, perhaps now you understand why your story matters, not as self-praise, but as a powerful reminder of what quiet dignity and courage look like." Jason, visibly conflicted, attempted to challenge one final time, voice subdued but defiant. Even if Benjamin did serve bravely, that doesn't excuse his slow work or the inconvenience it causes. Efficiency matters too. Senator Carter turned toward him, expression calm yet unyielding. "Young man, efficiency without empathy is hollow, just as speed without understanding is pointless. Benjamin works slowly because he does each task carefully, respectfully, thoughtfully. That isn't incompetence, it's integrity. Can you honestly say your own actions have reflected similar values?" Jason's eyes lowered, humility finally piercing his pride. His colleagues stood quietly, silently absorbing the senator's pointed lesson. Benjamin felt a profound weight beginning to lift, not through punishment or humiliation, but through quiet moral clarity. Olivia stepped forward hesitantly, voice trembling slightly with genuine remorse. "Benjamin, I'm truly sorry for ignoring your dignity, for not standing up against the ridicule you've endured. You deserved better." Benjamin met her gaze gently, compassion rather than bitterness coloring his voice. "Thank you, Olivia. True respect begins with acknowledgement. You've shown genuine courage now." The senator nodded approvingly, her eyes filled with quiet pride. Benjamin's quiet yet powerful lesson resonated deeply, not only with those present, but throughout the hall as guests had quietly gathered. Drawn by the unfolding confrontation, Senator Carter addressed everyone, gently yet powerfully, turning the personal into the universal. "Tonight, we've learned an important lesson. Respect, humility, fairness, these aren't simply words. They're quiet yet powerful truths embodied by individuals like Benjamin Hart, who serve quietly, diligently, and selflessly. When we overlook their quiet dignity, we risk losing the very values that bind our communities together." Benjamin stood silently, moved deeply by the profound sincerity around him. His initial discomfort was giving way to quiet strength, dignity, and genuine emotional redemption. Senator Carter gently reached toward his jacket, revealing the Medal of Valor pinned discreetly inside. This medal was earned not in pursuit of applause, but quietly, bravely, humbly. Benjamin, perhaps now you see why sharing this quiet strength matters, not for praise, but for truth. As the medal glinted softly in the room's gentle lighting, Benjamin finally felt his reluctance melting away. He understood clearly now. True humility wasn't invisibility. It was quiet strength acknowledged openly. His quiet dignity, once hidden, now became a beacon illuminating forgotten values of fairness, respect, and community responsibility. A profound silence enveloped the crowded kitchen as Senator Carter gently revealed the medal, pinned discreetly beneath Benjamin's jacket. The Medal of Valor glinted softly under the muted kitchen lights, its quiet gleam echoing loudly through the stillness, turning the room's disbelief into awe. Jason and Olivia stared wordlessly, their earlier skepticism replaced by deep, uncomfortable realization. Benjamin stood quietly, gaze steady yet gentle, accepting the attention with quiet dignity, not pride. As the medal became visible, guests who had quietly gathered in the doorway now fully understood the significance of what they were witnessing. A moment of quiet heroism finally acknowledged. Senator Carter's voice, calm yet deeply emotional, broke the stillness gently, addressing everyone present. Many years ago, Benjamin Hart risked his life to save not only my husband, but numerous other soldiers trapped behind enemy lines. Without hesitation or thought of reward, Benjamin stepped into danger repeatedly, quietly carrying wounded soldiers to safety under relentless fire. Jason's eyes widened, shock mixing visibly with regret. Olivia's mouth fell open slightly, tears forming silently in her eyes. Yet no one dared interrupt. Sensing the powerful weight of Senator Carter's words, Benjamin never spoke of his bravery afterward. She continued quietly, her voice steady, yet carrying an emotional intensity impossible to ignore. He declined interviews, refused public recognition, even asked that this medal, the highest honor a civilian can receive, be awarded privately, away from cameras and applause. He believed true heroism required no audience. Benjamin lowered his gaze modestly, memories flickering vividly through his mind. Each moment from the battlefield was etched into him, carrying pain, loss, and quiet pride. Yet he had long chosen silence, not from shame, but from an intense belief that humility was the purest form of respect for those who hadn't survived. Senator Carter turned directly toward Jason, her eyes firm but compassionate. Young man, earlier tonight, you openly mocked Benjamin's age, his pace, his quiet manner. Perhaps now you see what you've truly been mocking: dignity, humility, and genuine courage. Jason's voice trembled with genuine remorse, finally understanding fully the gravity of his earlier disrespect. Benjamin, I had no idea. I'm deeply sorry. You deserved so much better. Benjamin met Jason's sincere gaze, offering a gentle yet profoundly powerful reply. Jason, dignity isn't earned through medals or applause. It's something every person deserves, simply because they're human. You've learned this tonight. Remember it always. Jason nodded slowly, humility finally softening his once arrogant stance. Round him, others nodded quietly, reflecting deeply on Benjamin's gentle wisdom. The senator's revelation, far from mere sensationalism, had sparked a transformative realization in everyone present. Olivia stepped forward quietly, voice soft yet clear. Benjamin, your story shouldn't be hidden any longer. Everyone deserves to know who has been quietly serving them with humility and strength. Benjamin hesitated slightly, deeply uncomfortable, yet recognizing the importance of sharing his hidden truth. Thank you, Olivia. Perhaps I've misunderstood humility as silence, but tonight I've learned something too. Sometimes quiet truths need to be spoken openly. For the sake of justice and respect, Senator Carter gently squeezed Benjamin's shoulder, reinforcing his quiet courage. Benjamin, there's one more thing everyone should know. All eyes turned expectantly toward the senator, curiosity heightened by her gentle intensity. Benjamin himself looked uncertain, unsure what additional revelation awaited. The senator reached gently into her own pocket, withdrawing a small, aged photograph, edges worn gently from yours carried closely. Handing it respectfully to Benjamin, she spoke quietly, yet clearly. "My husband carried this photo of you always, as a constant reminder of genuine courage and friendship. He once told me, if I could teach just one lesson, it would be that. True strength is always quiet and selfless, like Benjamin's. He never forgot you." Benjamin, not for a single day. Benjamin stared quietly at the faded image, emotions overwhelming his disciplined composure. It was a simple picture, himself, young, uniformed, smiling quietly yet confidently. He'd never known this photograph existed, nor how deeply his actions had affected the senator's late husband. Quiet tears slipped silently down Benjamin's aged face. Testament to emotions held tightly for decades, finally released gently into the open. "You see, Benjamin," Senator Carter concluded softly, "your quiet courage saved lives not just physically, but emotionally. Your humility, your selflessness, became a lasting inspiration to others, even when you believed no one noticed. Perhaps true humility isn't silence, but quietly acknowledging one's truth openly and honestly." Benjamin nodded slowly, finally understanding the lesson fully himself. Around him, quiet tears mirrored his own, as soldiers, servers, guests all, deeply moved, absorbed the profound truth now laid openly before them. Jason stepped forward cautiously, voice gentle yet firm. "Benjamin, if you'll allow it, I'd like to publicly share your story tonight, in the main hall, not for applause, but for awareness. Everyone deserves to know who has quietly stood among us." Benjamin considered quietly, fully comprehending now the importance not for his own sake, but for everyone needing a reminder of genuine dignity, humility, and quiet strength. Finally, he nodded gently, voice steady yet profoundly emotional. "Very well, Jason. But please, remember the story isn't about me. It's about recognizing the quiet courage every person holds." Jason nodded respectfully, deeply humbled. Around them, quiet agreement murmured softly. Senator Carter smiled warmly, gratitude and respect deeply evident. Benjamin's quiet dignity, finally acknowledged openly, resonated powerfully through the room. Minutes later, the grand ballroom fell quiet as Jason approached the microphone. Benjamin standing quietly behind him, nervously yet sincerely. Jason addressed the assembled guests, sharing Benjamin's hidden truth, the story of quiet bravery, humility, and dignity unseen for far too long. As Jason concluded, the ballroom filled with quiet yet heartfelt applause, not merely celebrating Benjamin personally, but honoring the profound truth he represented. Benjamin remained quietly dignified, humbled yet grateful. He understood clearly. Now, true humility wasn't silence, but quiet strength openly recognized and respected. His quiet journey, marked by hidden courage and steadfast dignity, had finally brought genuine understanding, respect, and emotional peace not only for himself but for everyone present. The applause in the grand ballroom faded slowly, replaced by a respectful silence that carried far more weight than cheers ever could. Benjamin stood quietly behind the podium, eyes lowered, hands gently clasped before him. Though the crowd waited for him to speak, he remained still for a few breaths longer, not out of hesitation, but in reverence for the moment. He wasn't used to being the center of attention. He hadn't asked for it, and he still didn't want it, but he finally understood its necessity, not for him, but for the message his silence had hidden for too long. When he finally looked up, his eyes swept across the audience, not with pride, but with warmth, patience, and quiet strength, the kind of gaze that saw people for who they were, not who they pretended to be. "I never wanted recognition," he began, his voice steady but soft, "because the men and women I served with, many of them never came home. To accept praise when so many were lost, it always felt like a betrayal of their memory." He paused, the room holding its breath. "With him, but I've come to realize silence, too, can be a kind of injustice. Not because it hides pain, but because it allows others to forget what dignity truly looks like. And that's not something we can afford to forget." There was no spotlight needed, no dramatics, just the quiet, steady voice of a man who had spent his life serving without needing to be seen. And in that moment, He was truly seen for the first time in decades. Later that evening, as the crowd dispersed and conversations resumed, Benjamin found himself surrounded not by cameras or demands, but by handshakes, quiet words, and tearful thank yous. Veterans approached him with eyes full of recognition and reverence. Young cadets stood straighter in his presence. Civilians offered words of apology, of admiration, of gratitude. But it was Jason who stood before him last. No arrogance in his posture now, no clever remarks on his lips, just a young man humbled by truth, trying to find the right words in the face of someone who had once seemed so small. "I judged you by your silence," Jason said, voice low, "and in doing that, I failed to see everything you carried. I was wrong, deeply wrong, and I want to do better." Benjamin studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Then start by listening, not to respond but to understand. That's where dignity begins." Jason nodded slowly, the lesson settling into him not as punishment, but as something earned through humility. Beside him, Olivia approached, holding a carefully folded chef's apron, the one Benjamin always wore during events, stained and faded with time. "We had it cleaned and stitched," she said gently, "not to erase its history but to honor it." Benjamin smiled quietly, taking it with a nod of thanks. "It's perfect. The old fabric holds the truth better than anything new ever could." In the following weeks, the story of Benjamin Hart began to spread not as viral content or clickbait heroism, but as a spoken story passed from one person to the next, shared across military canteens, kitchens, and community centers, not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. It reminded people that the quietest workers often carried the heaviest loads, that humility did not mean insignificance, that recognition, when earned without demand, carried a weight no title ever could. Benjamin continued to cook, to serve, to clean, just as he always had. But now, those around him paused to greet him with respect. Conversations that once passed him by now included him. Jokes that once belittled were replaced by gestures of inclusion and camaraderie. And in turn, Benjamin began to speak a little more, sharing bits of his story not to impress, but to teach. He mentored younger staff, not with authority, but with quiet example. He talked about what it meant to serve with purpose, about the strength it took to return from war and choose peace, about what it meant to build dignity from within, even when no one was watching. Justice had not come with fanfare. Redemption had not arrived through grand speeches or medals on display. It had come slowly, respectfully, through acknowledgement, through accountability, through the courage to speak when silence had long seemed easier. One evening, long after the gala, Benjamin sat alone at a quiet park bench near the edge of town. The same park where soldiers were memorialized on a granite wall, names etched beneath a golden plaque that read, "In quiet courage, we remember." He reached into his coat and gently unfolded the photograph. Senator Carter had given him the one her husband had carried through war and peace alike. He stared at his younger self and smiled, not with nostalgia, but with peace. The man in the photo had been brave, yes, but the man now was complete. And for the first time in many years, Benjamin allowed himself a breath of full, unguarded contentment, not because the world finally knew who he was, but because he had finally allowed himself to be seen. In a world that often rewards noise and speed, stories like Benjamin's remind us of the quiet power of humility, patience, and unseen sacrifice. He never sought applause, yet his actions echoed louder than any praise could. Too often, we overlook those who work in silence, those who carry history, dignity, and quiet strength in their every step. But when we pause, listen, and truly see them, we begin to restore something sacred: respect. If Benjamin's story moved you, if it reminded you of someone you know, or someone you've overlooked, take a moment to reflect. And if you believe that true strength lies not in titles, but in quiet courage and integrity, we invite you to comment the word below. Let it be a symbol of acknowledgement for every unseen hero, every silent worker, every person who stands tall without needing to be seen. Their stories deserve to be told.